Thanks a million, Victoria, for having us here today in your gorgeous house. I am blown away. It's absolutely stunning.
Thank you, Caroline.
I suppose you can't believe you're sitting here. You just moved in, like, when was it?
We're about 6-7 months we moved in, so it's a work in progress, but...
No, it's not like you keep saying to me, oh, it's not finished. But to me, it's like sitting in a fully finished home. It's absolutely gorgeous. How has it been? Like, how long did it take you from you started the Sattbill journey to now?
Yeah, so it probably took us about 1.5 years from our funds went in, because we kind of did that stage and then had a little bit of a pause. So you'll know yourself, some things go really fast and then some things are slower, all depending on how quick the workmen want to get to our house. So it's been probably about 1.5 years. So
okay, that's good, because when we started our finds, our house seemed to go up really quickly, and I was like, oh, we're going to be in far sooner than 1.5 years, but then it starts to slow down, doesn't it, at a certain stage?
And even getting the painters here, we actually didn't have our painters here until we were in the house. So every morning you were waking up to painters coming in. But that even took weeks.
Yes.
Because new walls need prepared and, you know, so...
So I think it is, like, if people are listening to this and they're on that Sattbill journey, it's about setting those expectations at the start that you're not going to be in as quick as you might think you are.
Well, we had planned to be in for September because I had wanted my 30th birthday in here.
Okay.
But... it was Christmas before we were in, but we got the next deadline.
Well, look, Christmas is lovely to have it in your new home, and it's a credit to you and Andy. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm getting loads of inspo sitting in your beautiful kitchen here, and it's stunning. And I keep saying to you, where'd you get this? Where'd you get that? So, yeah, thank you for sharing it all with us. And I know, I suppose, this house, like, what size is this house?
It's about 2,500, 2,600 square feet, I think. It's about that there.
Okay, so ours is in around 2,700. So that's... I love hearing what we're going to talk about now, because we're kind of on the same wavelength size-wise.
And the heat pump's new to you in your house. You've never had it, and it was the first house I've been in with it, so...
Yeah, so that's what, like you said, you come on ahead up and see our new build, because we have the air source heat pump, and that's what I'm kind of trying to find out about now. And we've decided to go for it, but I don't have it in my house. So you do, and we wanted Bassetts Renewables, and I wanted to talk to somebody that could tell everyone on social media a real life true testimonial of it. And when you sent me a message on social, it was so positive and good. I was like, oh, and that's why it's so lovely that you said we could come. So air source heat pump, tell us, what did that mean to you at the start?
Yeah, well, I just knew that it was going to be like an economical way to heat your house. It was going to be not using the old kind of oil, those sorts of things. So, but I had no idea what it was going to be like. All I knew that I would have underfloor heating, and we went for that downstairs and upstairs, and I just had no idea that I was going to have these stats that I was going to have to do something with, that I hadn't a clue what it was going to look like. But it couldn't have been more straightforward, actually, because once you get it in and it gets set up and it gets turned on, you literally don't have to look about it. You know, you don't need to go to your clock and say, oh, I need to put it on now, because you get it set up, and that's it, set up for your year. And whenever you get it set up, well, what we did was we had 2 different settings, so we can just flick between one and the other depending on the time of the year. So I don't have to think about, is the heating going to be on in the morning, because I know that whatever temperature we want our rooms at, it's going to be at.
Sounds like heaven, you know, to have that kind of all set up. And I suppose on social, people were sending me different messages trying to find out all about the heat pump. So I have questions, I hope you don't mind. Like, these people on social media, they are very specific. And rightly so, if you're going to invest that amount of money, because it is more expensive than probably what people have been used to, but for a reason. And that's what we're going to find out now. So I'm going to fire you out the questions, and hopefully you can answer them for me.
Hopefully I can.
So kicking off, I guess the first question that people say is, how is this different to oil heating or gas heating that I've traditionally had in my other home? So you obviously lived somewhere first. What is the difference?
I suppose there's a few differences, because in our old house, it was all radiators. So I don't have radiators on any walls in this house, which is one huge thing. So it's all underfloor. But with our oil heating, it was like, well, the house was either really cold because there was no heating on, or else you put the heating on and then, you know, you wait for it to warm up and you have a nice warm house. But when it's off again, well, it's cold again. Whereas with this house, we don't have that. There's never any fluctuation in the temperatures, because it's all done with your thermostat, and it's keeping your room at a certain temperature. And often, because our house is so well insulated, our heating is a lot from even just the sunlight. It keeps some rooms warmer than others. But the great thing is the thermostat will only put my heating on in that room if it needs it on.
Yes.
So it's all set. Every room's different. So our bedrooms are lower than our living areas. And it's just, you don't have to think about when you want your heating on. You think about that at the very start whenever you've got your team to come and set up your system. Well, what temperature do you want your rooms? What ones do you want different to others? And what time of year do you want that on at? And I occasionally look at the little stats and see what temperature the room's at. And if there's a flame, I know the heating's on. And if there's no flame, I'll know it's not on. And it's just a way that I can kind of keep an eye. But I never actually think to myself, I wonder is the heating on or is it not? Because I'm always comfortable in every room because it's at the temperature we set it to be at the start.
That's amazing because, like, I suppose traditionally we've all battled with it's freezing in here, turn the heat on.
And I hated that so much.
To not have that must be unreal. So, okay, that's a really good place to start for people to know the initial differences.
Yes, it's more constant, you know, in your house. There's not the fluctuation of, oh, I'm cold, oh, I'm hot. It's just very steady.
So obviously when you're building your house, it's a minefield. There's all this information, all these different things you can do, all these new bits of technology. It's overwhelming, isn't it?
Yeah, there's so much to think about.
Yes, and I can understand because we were at that stage too. Whenever we went to the self-build show and we seen Bassetts, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I've heard good things, I've heard bad things.
Yeah.
So there is different people with different views and opinions. What did you go through and why did you eventually decide then to go for that one?
Yeah. Well, it's not something I initially thought of when I was thinking about designing our home. It was like, where do I want my kitchen? Where do I want all these things? But I knew that I wanted underfloor heating because it done away with the whole radiators and I liked the idea of underfloor. But I know you can get underfloor with oil as well. So we had just kind of thought about then, whenever we were in the process of planning our house, that we were going to go kind of as eco as we could, so triple glazing, a lot of insulation and all these things, and that kind of brought us to the place of should we do air source heat pump, because it kind of tied in well with the other things we were doing. But obviously all our family, friends, it's like they were huge advocates for maybe old ways because we know that, and it's like, well, do you know anybody with it? That was the biggest thing people said to us. Well, if you don't know anyone with it, you've never seen this before. So, you know, and we had never been in a house with this until our own. Yes. And I wouldn't change it for the world, and I do love it. But at the start, we hadn't a clue what we were in for. I had no idea what it was going to look like, this air source heat pump. People were like, is that what goes into the ground?
Yes.
And we're like, oh, not this one, no. So we were a little bit clueless, but we weren't put off by, you know, everyone has their own ideas and things, but we were happy that we went with it in the end.
So basically what you're saying is you were cynical at the start, but you're so happy now.
Most definitely.
Okay.
And I love my heat in a house, and I was thinking, well, for me to get the house the temperature I wanted all the time, is it going to be astronomical? And it's not. We couldn't be more happy with our energy bills. We have one bill for our house that does all our heating and all our electric, and we are pleasantly surprised by it. So I wouldn't let the money thing put me off. But I wish someone had told me whenever I was thinking about the air source heat pump that it wasn't going to be crazy, because as it knowledge everything. So when whenever you can hear what somebody's bill has been, it put me at ease. Knowing when my first bill came in and my second bill came in, that I was like, okay, this is actually good. My house is such a great temperature. I love it all the time, and this is what my bill is, and I'm happy with it.
Well, I can't wait to show Jared this video, because even though we've decided and we know we're going for the air source heat pump, he's still worried.
He's still worried.
Like, oh, I hope it's not going to be too dear. I hope it's not going to be too dear. Because it's all about when you have a family budget and price and all. So that's so reassuring, and it will be for everybody that's listening as well, that a real life person that isn't, you know, that put it in herself and decided, you and your hubby, that it's brilliant for your family. So it's great to hear.
Yes, it couldn't be better.
So at what point, Victoria, did you decide, yes, we're going to go for this?
So after we had our foundations in, then we were going about looking mortgages and things like that, and we got this report done to say, hey, this would make your house very efficient. And so we kind of got this list that would say, you know, put in triple glaze and put this in, put that in, and air source heat pump was on that list. So we did a little bit of research ourselves and we went for the air source heat pump at that point, and still not knowing what the bills would be throughout the whole thing, and still not knowing what it looked like and things like that. But it went in, and even how fast the house got heated up with when it was first put in, it just pleasantly surprised us from day one.
So I suppose when a heat pump goes in, there's so much you have to think about it within your house. It's not just the pump, it's all about the insulation and things, and that can scare people at the start because obviously there is a bigger cost to do that. But what way did you find that? Was that something was a challenge, but was it worth it? Or
yeah, well, I think what we always thought about whenever we were putting in our heating and our insulation was it was an investment. So we did go for a lot of insulation in our floor and in our walls and in our ceiling and things like that, but it just helps with the heating. So they go hand in hand. So we weren't going to put in this heat pump and have really bad insulation, or have really good insulation but have no heating. So we had to kind of go what was going to work together. So we did plan, yes, alongside each other to have good insulation alongside of it because they just work so well together.
And I think there's a lot of people send in messages and perhaps there's feedback about they don't find the heat pump good, but their windows are 30 years old, or they put it in later on, or it wasn't, you know, so it does go hand in hand with all those extra things to make it as efficient as possible, I guess.
Definitely, yeah. And then what I didn't really think about whenever we were putting it in initially was, you know, where do you position your heat pump outside? So that's something to think about then in the planning stages of your garden, and because it can't be too far away from your house. So it's keeping that in mind as well, of which I hadn't really thought about, but then the plumbers come alongside and say, well, where are we going to put this, Victoria?
Yes.
And then we have to say, okay, well, it's going to go here. So.
And definitely when I went to Bassetts Renewables, to their main innovation centre, Chris there showed me what it looked like, first of all, because I had no clue.
Brilliant.
I was like thinking it was this big, massive contraption tall, but actually it's not. It's quite
it's
flat
neat.
and seamless, and it's actually going to sit in our house quite like inconspicuous nearly. It doesn't really stand out too much, but it does need to be close to your back door. But I guess we'll have a look at that today when we're here as well. But yes, people do need to think about that. Right, let's talk about it. Instant hot water. How does that feel?
It's a dream.
Okay, because it is something that, you know, I suppose in the traditional homes you always have to go, turn the immersion on, you used all the water. Like, because I come from a big family, that's what
6 months ago, that was our house, Caroline.
Okay, right, tell us about instant hot water. What does that mean for you as a family?
Well, I have a son who loves daily baths.
Okay.
It would take 4 fill out of him. And obviously then I have another boy, they're out in the farm every day, and we shower every day. So just not having to think about, is there hot water, is just amazing. You just turn the tap on and it's there, the shower's on. It's just, there's nothing worse than washing your hands even in cold water if you run out, or scalding water at the same time. These tanks have it at a certain temperature, which is so pleasant.
And that's all been set up by obviously the engineer that's setting up your system at the start.
Yes. And I think it's so economical the way they do it, because the old way it was really, really, really hot, but it's never really needed to be that hot for a bath or a shower. So keeping it at that lower temperature is also better for your energy bills, the way this is set up.
So basically, if people are trying to understand this concept, your whole house is run on electric.
Everything, yeah.
So the electric goes off, obviously that's a handling, as it is in everybody's house. But what does that mean for the heating? Like, what does that mean?
It just means it's going to be off for that period of time that the electric's off. It's happened a couple of weeks ago. We got a letter through to say it's going to be off on this day for tree cutting. It was off all day, but whenever it's turned back on again, the memory's there on our little stats, so it just goes back to where it was before. So just like in any house, you just do without your heating for a day.
Yes, happy days. Okay, that's good to know that it doesn't knock everything off, that you have to get it reset. It's all set up.
Yep.
Perfect. So basically, when your electric went off, you probably didn't even really notice it, did you? In the heating wise, does it still say kind of the same then?
Yeah, so because this house is so well insulated, it would probably take a good week to notice a bigger drop in temperature. Maybe 1 or 2 degrees at most would be the change in a day.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's the holidays now. It's about to hit August, and I'm sitting here now, and it's so lovely and comfortable in here. But what do you do with the heating then when it comes to this time of the year?
Yep, so when it was set up, we've got an option that if we want to knock our heating off, we can technically put it on holiday mode. So it just means that it'll only kick in if the house gets below a certain temperature, and you can set that to be whatever you want. So ours is on that at the minute. So we've got all our hot water that we would want. It's never run out, and our heating just isn't on in any of the rooms at the minute. It's just not. Our house just isn't cold enough to need it. We're sitting in the 20s with it off.
So does that mean then that your electric bills are really low then?
Yes.
Because the heat's not on?
Okay. And generally I think what we're going to have is a couple of more expensive bills a year and a couple of lower bills a year, and they all kind of even out. So I'm never really taking our electric bills, oh, that's for what it is. I think we kind of need to look at them on a year.
Yes, okay.
To kind of get a feel for what the year's like, because either your heating's on a lot more or on a lot less, depending on the season.
Okay. Loads of people were asking loads of questions, Victoria, so sorry I'm putting you
you're all
under
good.
Pure pressure here, but one of the things was like what type of maintenance is involved in a air source heat pump, like servicing and that. Do you know anything about that? Or
So we have like a little plant room. It's a small cupboard with everything that we have in it, and that's where the guy who came to commission our heat pump went to and got everything set up. And he that day got the form signed for the warranty to start. So we've got a warranty with our Grant air source heat pump. And then what we have to do is bring someone back that is expertised in it, and he will yearly give it a service, and that keeps up our warranty. So we don't touch it.
Okay.
And we just let the experts keep it, because there's no point in us getting involved when we don't have a clue really, you know, what these pipes and different things are for.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. You need experts to set it up, and they'll be able to keep it right for you, because we don't know how to do that. Okay, perfect. So whenever you do decide, you're like, right, who do I need to get on board to make this happen? So what tradesmen or professionals did you consult then to make it all happen, Victoria?
Yep, so our neighbours up the road are PC Plumbing, and we weren't going to go past our neighbours for our plumbing. So they had done air source heat pumps before. So whenever we had said, right, we need you on site now to have a little chat about this, they were able to help and give us anything that we needed to know at that time. But they work along with Bassetts, get everything from there. So that's where they were going to get our heat pump from. So they were able to even help us about if we were going to want a fire, would we link that in with our heating? They were just the guys that knew all the stuff. So we were able to ask them a lot of our questions, because they had already dealt with them before.
Yeah, and that's what I find I've needed, like they need to tell me. I don't know, and you need to trust your tradesmen and your professionals to do that, and that's why it is good when you get the people that have done it before and have worked with Bassetts or worked with another company to do it right. So that's good to know.
Yes, and I always have my little list of questions that I wanted to ask them, because whenever you're thinking about your self-build or your home that you're going to put it in, you want to know if you've got a fire, do you link it in? You want to know what you're going to do with it all, and because people didn't know these answers back then. So
get a notebook is the key to everybody listening, and write down all your questions, right? So on social media, I put a question box up, Victoria, and I was like, ask all your questions and I'm going to put them to Victoria. There was a lot of talk around the fact that a lot of people thought it was going to be very noisy. So talk to us about the noise.
I don't hear any noise. I've never heard that they could be noisy at all. So I like my peace and quiet. Two boys, I don't get it a lot.
Yes.
But I definitely don't have a noise off my heat pump.
Okay, good. That's good. So that's that myth.
And there's not noisy pipes that, you know, you would hear in houses. I don't have that either.
Okay.
So it is a lovely, quiet, clean system.
Yes, and I can confirm it's like peaceful in here. When's the boys coming home? Very soon.
Hopefully not too soon.
So you mentioned something there called a plant room. I've actually never heard that term before. So what that makes it sound like there's a big contraption that we're going to see. What is the plant room and what's inside this plant room?
No, so I was only made aware when we were at the plumbing stage of we need a space in your house, Victoria, that these few things are going to go in. So I reluctantly, no, I'm only joking, I let them have a cloaks cupboard. So I said, here's the cupboard I was going to use for coats, you can put it in there. And it's very neat and tidy. It just has a couple of different things in it, pipes on the wall, and that's my main station for my heating pump. So it's all neat and tidy in a way, it's not messy, and you don't really need a very big space, but you just need to have a space for it somewhere.
And other comms type things can go in there as well, is that right?
So we have electric boxes and stuff like that in there too.
Perfect. Victoria, here's what it all boils down to. Do you know what I'm going to say?
Yeah.
Money.
Money.
So that was probably 80% of the questions is how much. People just want to know how much is this going to cost me?
Yeah.
And obviously we're basing it on your size of your house, which is great for me because it's the same size as my house, more or less. But can you talk to us about how much it's been for you from the start right through and what that looks like?
Yeah, so I was warned that my first bill was going to be higher. And whenever you know when you're in the stages of building a house that you need to get your house dried out, because you can't have tiling going down on floors that aren't properly dried. So my plumbers were like, Victoria, your first bill is going to be expensive. So I had braced myself for my first bill. So from my first 3 months were £813. Now that was a big bill, but it had dried my house out. There was no like, oh, let's set this house at 22. This pump was going constant for weeks and weeks and weeks to get my house dried out. The house, you couldn't have moved in, it was that warm.
Yes.
And so that was going, and then our immersion heater had been on, and other things like that had happened. And you know when you get electric in a house and all the workmen come in and using, so it was sky high. But I just had to say to myself, look, there's another bill coming, which is going to be a lot more accurate. And it was, thankfully. So our bills are working out on average probably around £75 a month for my heating and electric.
And I think that's really important to stress that because we're not just talking about heat here.
No.
We're talking about
dishwasher, tumble dryer, washing machine, lights,
dryer, charging, everything. Like that's your electric and your heating around £75 a month.
A month, yeah.
That's amazing.
And summer months, like I do keep an eye on my units that I use, so I kind of know what I'm using when, because it's good to know the system you're using. So we actually have a day-night rate because some of our heat pump works during the night, so you get a cheaper rate at night time with a lot of energy suppliers. So we do the day-night rate, so that helps with our bills as well. So it's getting to know your system, and asking these questions keeps your bills good.
Yes, and there has been a lot of scaremongering from people to other people, like, oh, that's going to cost a fortune, but it's because you didn't like buy your underflooring from somebody and a heat pump off somebody else and somebody else to fit it. We
went with Bassetts, the one place that we got everything from. Our plumbers know them well. They were confident in what they were putting in. It was put in right. There wasn't any hiccups. They knew what they were talking about. They knew who we needed out to get it commissioned. It's just been done right from day one, our heating system.
I'm going to take this wee clip and show it to Jared specifically, and he'll be saying to me, Victoria said 75. So if we do and we focus on our insulating, well, obviously we're going with Bassetts and they know what they're at. We're aiming to hopefully have that type of bill as well, which will be brilliant for us because that's not something we've ever had before. So we'll be looking forward to saving the pennies then in the future. Yeah,
because it's looking like we'll be under the 1,000 for the whole year.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm delighted.
So this isn't like a one-size-fits-all heating system, Victoria, right? This is bespoke to your home. This is made for the layout of your home, isn't that right?
Yes, that's right. So from the very pipes being laid on the floor to the stats being on the walls, everywhere's zoned. And so we picked it was underfloor up and down, but every room has its own zone. So you individually pick the temperature for each room. But even when it comes to the kitchen, there's no pipes under my island or under my cupboards, but you do your walkthrough with your plumber, and the pipes are specifically laid out just for this home, and it's all custom to me.
And I think that's really important for people who just think they can buy any system and put it in. It's not like that. It needs to be very planned out strategically.
Yeah, that's right.
So obviously I'm thinking about heating, and I'm looking, and there's it looks to me like a stove right beside us here, gorgeous. Is that like for heating? Is that added heating, or is that how does that affect your heating system? Or
no, so we don't have any fires or real fires or stoves in the house. That's just a little electric stove that we got recently. It's more just for show, and to go in the room. But it does have like 2 settings of an electric blow heater. Say if you did want a wee blast, or say if the kids were out in the snow and they wanted to put their hands up and heat them on something. It's more just kind of a little instant heat blower that's never been used yet.
Okay, well, that's beautiful. I just was wondering,
it's just electric,
added heat? No. Like, is that affecting the heat?
But the red flame, it's, makes it look good a wee bit.
Yes, it does, definitely does. Victoria, thank you so much for showing us around your home, and I know that the whole team are going to do some videos and photos for everybody, but for being so honest. And I think it's the fear in some people of the unknown. This is a new way of heating your home.
Yes.
It's the future. by the looks of it. But we need real life testimonials. I need them too. I trust Bassetts and I trust everything they're doing, but to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, that's just gold for new build people and renovations and stuff. So thank you. Good luck with the rest of your house. You don't have anything more to do. It's absolutely gorgeous. But good luck to you and your lovely family.